Welcome, everyone, to episode number 12 of the Riverfront Bengals Show, where we come to you every Thursday to discuss the week that was and the week that will be in all things Cincinnati Bengals, often in nonsensical ways. And we are the very show that some folks are claiming to be the third most dangerous podcast in all of Mozambique. We are your hosts, Nate Dotson and Joe Farson. Joe, how the hell are you, brother?
I am doing good, man. I'm ready for a game this week. Bye weeks are good for the team, but it's boring as hell on the weekends with nothing to look forward to. What about yourself, Chief?
I'm telling you, I'm the same. I don't like it. I had nothing to read. I was listening to every podcast out there just to fill the time. But we'll figure out something.
Other podcasts besides ours?
There are. I mean, somebody has to listen to something. All three people in the world that listen to ours. It's not gonna cut it.
True that.
But as Joe alluded to, our beloved Bengals were on bye this week. But we did find something to talk about. We have a game against the stupid Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to preview that. And then for the meat of the episode, we are going to use cinematic masterpiece and Matthew McConaughey breakthrough vehicle, Dazed and Confused, to predict the storylines, themes, and generally just shoot the crap about the second half of the 2022 season. But before we get too far down the rabbit hole, please, if you don't mind, heck, even if you do mind, just go give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on wherever you consume this podcast. It helps us to reach more people, and we love to expand our non-Mozambique audience to something greater than where it currently stands, which I mentioned was 3, and I think 2 of those are related to me. So we're just trying to get out there, guys. That's all. Send us proof of that like or follow to team@riverfrontcincy.com or on Twitter @TRBengalsShow. And we'll put you in a raffle with the lucky winner getting to go on a long romantic walk in the park with my friend Joe here. We'll also treat you to some froyo, smoothie, or another delicious treat. That sound good?
Grater's black or raspberry black chip.
He's already got it picked out, so we're good to go. All right, so let's jump in here, Joe. After the bye week, Cincinnati finds themselves at 5-4, precisely where they were at this point last year. Baltimore is leading the division at 6-3, while the Browns and Steelers are both at 3-6, and that's because they stink, and somehow both won against Cincinnati, which is just gross.
Very gross.
Our fellas are currently on the outside looking in regards to the playoff picture, but there is a lot of football to be played yet. Joe, how are you feeling about their playoff chances at this point?
I'm still pretty optimistic. You look at some of the teams ahead of them. Yeah, they're behind teams like the Jets. I mean, as of right now, there's some prognosticators have all 4 teams from the AFC East making it. That's not going to happen. I still think, Bengals played the Jets with Joe Flacco, but I think Joe Flacco is more efficient than Zach Wilson. They're due to come back down to earth. They've got a good defense, but I don't trust that offense. I think the Chargers are ahead of them by conference record or some tiebreakers. I don't see that happening. They've had a lot of injuries. Herbert has kind of regressed. I still feel pretty good. They've got games ahead of them against teams around them, and if they take care of business, then they won't have to worry about tiebreakers. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of those teams are a little bit scary. You got to blame your boy Sauce for completely changing the trajectory of that Jets franchise. He's
a goddamn stud, man.
He's been a monster over there. Herbert has been playing with that rib injury, and those things don't heal up. So I think with the injuries with their wide receivers, who might come back sometime soon, but they've been treading water, and I like the Bengals' chances a little bit more. How many wins do you think it's going to take for the wild card teams in the AFC?
10. You look at the Jets, Buffalo, New England are the 3 wild card teams right now, and they're at 6-5 wins. Yeah. I don't see New England getting to 10 wins. I think Buffalo's definitely gonna be in. I don't know if without looking at the Jets schedule, I don't know how they get to 11. Chargers aren't going to 11 wins, and then behind the Bengals. Anyone trust the Colts to win 6-7 games out of their next 8? Nope.
Jeff Saturday's has
7 games. They only have 7 games left.
Yeah, Saturday's first career win as the head coach was a great story, but let's not put him in Canton yet.
Yeah, exactly. And then behind that, you go crap fest at 3-6 with Cleveland, Denver. So I think 10 wins is going to get it in.
Yeah, I agree with you, but that just means that Cincinnati is going to need to go at least 5-3 the rest of the way. And I'll talk schedule a little bit later, but I really hope that week 1 loss, the rematch of this week's game, or the reason this week's game is a rematch, does not come back to haunt them. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that the good guys are heading to Pittsburgh to take on those stupid Pittsburgh Steelers.
They are stupid.
They're stupid. Field is stupid. They don't even know it's named anymore. It's nonsense. But it's a 4:25 game, flexed out of prime time for obvious reasons. The Steelers are unwatchable. I blame it entirely on them. Big AFC North showdown. The Cincinnati still looking for their first division win. And, I hate to remind anybody about this game, and we've done it a couple times now, but the Steelers beat Cincinnati in a just stupid 23-20 week 1 game. It made absolutely zero sense. There's not a lot of takeaways from that one. Cincinnati is opening at 5.5-point favorites. I'm hopeful that this one will not be that close. What do you think, man? Were there any important takeaways from week 1 that you see maybe coming into play for this week 11 matchup?
Honestly, if you look at, the Bengals played like absolute shit, and they should have won the game twice. When you have Joe Burrow turning the ball over 5 times and the Steelers were at absolute full strength on defense, it bodes well for the Bengals return game, because there are so many fluky things that happen, and they've got a lot of guys that might be in, might be out, but they're banged up. So I think that's my takeaway. Not that, be discouraged that the, evil, awful Steelers won, but Bengals did everything they could to lose and still, should have won.
Yeah. Joe Burrow has 6 interceptions on the entire season, and 3 or 4 of them were in week 1 against the stupid Steelers.
Yeah, 4.
So the other big takeaway is that I guess Pittsburgh has sort of upgraded at quarterback in the meantime, I guess, if you call it that.
I don't think they upgraded. I think they just moved on.
They just graded.
Yeah.
Kenneth Pickett is now the quarterback for the Steelers instead of the immortal, legendary man, myth, and legend, Mitch Trubisky. Truth Biscuit.
Truth Biscuit?
The Truth Biscuit. I don't know. Looking at this game, these teams are so different than they were in that week 1. You can't really take away anything other than maybe when the things started clicking for Cincinnati in the second half. But they do play a pretty similar style of offense. They're both right around 65-35 pass to run. Cincy's definitely got a huge advantage in the pass, but Pittsburgh's slightly better in the run. Not that either of them are particularly good. Unless, of course, the Bengals have figured something out with Joe Mixon, like it looks like they might have. Do you think the performance against Carolina was them finding something and sort of using that and something they can take away and use in the future, or was it just a lucky day?
Honestly, it almost seems like it was kind of a day that they built in a lab just to kind of, let's see what the hell happens if we, go to a full power offense, commit to the run. That's the 3rd iteration of the run game we've seen this so far this season.
True.
And this was a team that there was no reason to think that the Panthers would win outside of the randomness of a week-to-week NFL season. So this kind of seemed like, okay, let's just see what happens. Let's see if we fully commit, we run power, more power running offense and just totally commit to it. Let's see what we can do. And for all the numbers, yards that given up and everything, the Panthers actually had a very highly rated defense. If you look at things like DVOA, and Bengals literally marched up and down the field, on the ground, in the air, whatever they wanted to do while the first team was in. So I think, again, they're not going to do that against every team. I think it completely took them out, the Panthers, out of their game plan, because this isn't what they've seen all year. But it's something, if they incorporate it, and it can make, keep Mixon more effective, and more effective running game. Again, that's if that sucks up the secondary, more single coverage. As soon, when Chase gets back, that's going to be more single coverage for him over the top, and that's, then it's pick your poison. You're going to give up big chunk plays on the ground, or are you going to give up the huge 50, 60-yard pass play over the top? So it's definitely
that's
something
exactly
they
right.
can move on. Yeah.
I hope they figured out a little something, because they're going to need everything to be working against Pittsburgh's defensive front. I mean, Cam Hayward and TJ Watt are both studs. If healthy, both future Hall of Famers, two of the best in the entire league at what they do. So we'll be paying attention to that. If they can get Joe Mixon clicking early, then that's really going to open things up. I see there could be an opportunity for a big T. Higgins game, or at least it'd be nice to see him sort of break out the way we've all been kind of expected that he would once Chase went out. But speaking of the offense, what are some of the key matchups that you think are going to play a big part in this week's game?
I think a lot of it really depends on whether Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to play or not. They're saying, I mean, he had the appendectomy, and they're saying, oh, he wants to come back and play this week. He's going to come back and play this week. I think a lot of that is just kind of playing mind games. I really don't think that he's going to play. He's still a difference maker. He's still a turd. Jamar Chase, will be the first to tell you that. He'll tell you twice. I think that makes a big difference, especially on the back end, whether or not they, if he can't go, are they going to be more likely to blitz or just, run their base pass rush against, and then, and try to commit more guys to coverage. So I think that's a huge matchup. Again, I don't think he's going to go. But and then also, I didn't check the snap counts with TJ Watt. I know you got this on your next point, and I'll let you expand on it. But how healthy is he with his pec injury? Is he full go?
Yeah, that's gonna be big. But I'm glad you brought up Minkah Fitzpatrick first. He had that pick six on the opening series in week 1. He's got 3 interceptions on the season. He's somebody you have to pay attention to the entire time he's out on the field. He just has that big play, the way Von Bell's been this year for Cincinnati. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. It'll be tough, especially in a season where you have to. I mean, I'm sure nobody in the locker room is going to admit it, but Pittsburgh's not going anywhere this season. They're not going to make a playoff run.
No.
So why risk somebody getting hurt even worse? I don't know. But yeah, my key matchups on offense. And before I get to that, can I just say how much I miss Olivia Newton-John? This week, having no Olivia Newton-John is really just depressing me. So I just want to get that off my chest. If you see me crying, if I seem a little sad, a little down, that's why. But yeah, TJ Watt and Cam Hayward are really, really going to test this new Cincinnati offensive line. It's been looking better in recent weeks. Over the last 4 weeks, particularly, as a unit, they've been above average in all facets of run and pass block. And if you take out a couple of those Jonah Williams just disaster days, that looks even better. Lael Collins, we know he has a tendency to just fall down on occasion without really moving very much. So I think for me, this is going to be the most important thing to keep an eye on, is how these 4 new guys playing together for the first time can stop 2 future Hall of Famers. Are you optimistic? Are you nervous? Are you terrified like I am?
I'm not going to say I'm terrified. The interior of the Bengals offensive line has been the strength, basically from week 3, week 4 on. Bolson's been coming into his own, and Capo and Karras have been pretty much exactly what you expected that they would be. So that, and I'm not going to say that neutralizes Cam Hayward, because again, he's a Hall of Famer, but you feel a lot better going into week 11 than you did on week 1. TJ Watt's going to do what TJ Watt does. He's going to be disruptive, but the way to neutralize him is to run right at him. So if they're going to commit to the run, if they're going to do heavy, run more of a heavy personnel, pass out of the heavy personnel and have the extra lineman wherever Watt is, put the extra lineman or chip, you've got ways to scheme around it to help out in the passing game. So I feel a lot better. Even if Watt goes off and has a big game, I don't think that's going to decide anything, but I feel a lot better with what the offensive line can do against the defensive line this week.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. If by all accounts, the Bengals should have won in week 1 going away. They were the better team. They outplayed them in every aspect of the game except for the score. And TJ Watt and Cam Hayward played out of their minds.
Yeah,
and that was our offensive line. Yeah, and our offensive line was garbage back then, and it has not been garbage for some time now. So I definitely like our chances this week more than I did before. But yeah, that's what you need to look out for on the offensive side. What about D? Who do you got? What do you have mattering the most?
I think the huge thing is
Defensive
going to be.
matchups.
I lost you for a little bit there, but I think a huge thing on defense. DJ Reader's back, or all signs are pointing to he's back. He was
Woo, DJ,
activated. Yeah,
DJ.
that's gigantic. He was activated from IR. He's in the 21-day window. All signs are that he's going to be activated fully to the roster to play on Sunday without a pitch count too. So he's going to be out there his full complement of snaps. As been stated before, Najee Harris has played poorly against the Bengals in his career, though he'll get a lot of catches. If I remember, like, was the second game last year, or maybe the first game last year, he had like a dozen catches for like 60 yards. He always gets a lot of receptions, which is great for fantasy if you've got PPR, but he's not getting any yards on the ground and he's not breaking any tackles. He's got the foot or knee injury. I forget what the injury is.
I think it's Liz Frank. If I'm
okay, so foot injury. And he's running really slow. So I mean, this is not the guy that looked, that started to look like the first rounder at the end of last year, or the guy that was in Alabama. Honestly, I don't know why they don't run Jalen Warren more. I think he's a little more explosive right now. But
well, I was getting ready to bring that up. If you look at their snap counts, the gap narrows every week. I think he only outsnapped Jalen Warren by something like 10 or 11 last week.
Okay.
So don't be surprised if you get a solid dose of Jalen Warren too. And they're very different runners, so they can throw multiple things at you. I don't know why they're still running Najee Harris out there. The guy's got an injury. They said I read something that said that the nature of the injury is that it won't get worse with him playing on it. It just can't heal until he's done.
Yeah, and that's
you got nothing to play for, man.
And that's the thing. I get it. It's kind of just a matter of pain tolerance, and that But yeah, let him get the healing over so he can get in his greatest shape. Again, I mean, opponent of the Bengals. Okay, play the less impactful player against us. Fine, but it doesn't make sense. I mean, they're 3-6. They're, even if they win out, which ain't happening, they're still not even a lock to make the playoffs. So sit them or play them, a couple more weeks or every other, whatever. It's weird to have them
figure something out, especially as a running back who notoriously short career spans anyway. But hey, their losses, our gains. So
yeah,
we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I want to watch out for the matchup between Cincinnati's cornerbacks against the young Pittsburgh wide receivers. Can Cam Taylor-Britt and Eli Apple hold their own against George Pickens and Deontay Johnson? If you just look at PFF grades, they don't like Cincinnati's chances. I guess a better question might be how these safeties are going to fare. It could be a busy day for Jesse Bates and Von Bell. Fortunately, when you when you're assessing receivers and receiving abilities, you have to look at the guy throwing them the ball. And young Kenneth Pickett doesn't exactly strike me with fear, just full of terror.
Kenny Littlehands, yeah. He's one of the league leaders in interceptions, and he's played maybe half the time. He's the 31st out of 39th rated or graded quarterbacks. So yeah, he's struggled. It's funny, you read just on social media, and there's a lot of Pittsburgh-based homers, shall we say, that are saying like, oh, he still reminds people that he's going to be Joe Burrow 2.0, and you're like, based on what? He's Baker Mayfield. You look at his size, you look at what made him attractive, as a draft pick, that he was just this kind of moxie swagger guy, but no, he looks like Baker Mayfield. He doesn't look like Joe Burrow. He doesn't look like
he's Caucasian.
Yeah, exactly. He's a shorter white, somewhat mobile quarterback.
Somewhat mobile. Like he's young than he is mobile.
Yeah, but I mean he's decent escaping. But that's also because they don't have a very good offensive line either.
That's an understatement. They have a garbage offensive line.
Yeah, I mean although to be fair, it doesn't look any worse than the Bengals do, across the board.
The Bengals did Got it together, Joe.
They've gotten better. As a whole body of work, you look at the grades and they're similar, but yeah, the Bengals have arrows clearly gone up, as things have started to gel like we expected.
That's
I think the main thing for the Bengals to do on defense is just pressure, and especially if DJ Reader is able to go. He was actually one of the highest graded pass rushers for the defensive interior. Everyone thinks of him because he's 355 pounds as just a space clogger against the run, but he provides a lot of push in the pocket, which leaves the quarterback nowhere to go. Even if he doesn't get the sack, it's meaning that he's not able to slip out of the pocket and escape the grasp of Trey Hendrickson or Sam Hubbard. So you pressure him and he's going to throw the ball up for grabs. And Bengals cornerbacks do not have a pick this season. I'm going to bank that the Bengals cornerbacks, I'm going to say Cam Taylor-Britt is going to get the first interception of a Bengals cornerback this season against Kenny Pickett.
Go. If anybody can find the prop bet odds for that, please send us an email at team@riverfrontcincy or text Joe at TR Bengals Show, because I would love to do a little dash, a little sprinkle on that one right there. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a good test. I think that we all wanted to see some of these younger guys get a chance to get in there and play, and specifically Cam Taylor-Britt. So this will be a good matchup for him. We can definitely get a solid assessment of where he is and if he's also trending in the right direction.
Yeah,
we'll see. Injuries, depth chart updates. DJ Reader, you just mentioned, is back. We cannot put enough exclamation marks beside that. This guy is one of the best nose tackles in the entire NFL.
So underrated.
Welcome back, you handsome, jovial stallion.
Yes.
Also, aforementioned, Jamar Chase still out. They're saying he's still walking around on crutches, but there's a lot of people thinking that is just precautionary. They've got him around the team. He's not – he stayed in Cincinnati during the bye week. So I heard. I don't know. I didn't see him. I'm not there. And also don't fact check anything I say, Elon Musk. So
why would you?
We're going to pretend, because we don't want the truth to get in the way of a good story, that he stayed in Cincinnati. Mike Hilton, Trey Flowers, and Josh Tupou are all questionable. Have you heard any updates from those other guys?
Yeah, Mike Hilton was a full participant today. He's going to play. Knock on.
Love it.
And got, unless something different pops up between now and then. But, he had surgery on the finger. He should be good to go. Flowers, I didn't really hear anything specific about him. I think he's still TBD. He's got the hamstring injury. Josh Tupou will not play. He's at least a week behind. It would be fantastic if he can go next week against the Fighting Tennessee Derrick Henrys. We can use all the run stuffers that they can get. Outside of that, it's he's week to week. Chris Evans is still he was limited in practice. He's got the knee injury. Dax Hill has the shoulder injury. He was a non-participant, so they're probably not going to go this week. So,
yeah, what's the word on Dax Hill?
It's honestly just he's got the shoulder injury, and everything has just been kind of day to day, week to week. On the plus side, the Bengals have activated from pup Brandon Wilson, who's a safety. Also, he's one of the most dangerous kickoff return men before he got injured last year. And if Chris Evans can't go, well, you're replacing him with one of the best kickoff men in the NFL anyway. So, so that's that makes his not that Dax Hill had a lot of snaps to begin with, but you have a fast safety. That I don't know how Brandon Wilson never really got a ton of actual reps during actual game time to get a whole lot of feel for his ability. I don't think he's much if he's got to go out there in an emergency, but you've got another warm body to throw out there.
Yeah, they could use a boost, some explosiveness and special teams. It's kind of been lacking for them this year, especially when you compare it to last season. But one last question when it comes to injuries and depth chart concerns on everybody's mind, and by everybody I mean me. What's happening at punter, man? Is Kevin Huber going to get one more week to figure this out? We thought they had banged the death nail, but
it's been kind of weird mixed signals. You kind of assumed that once he was back out there on Monday that, okay, they're going to give him another week. Listening to Paul Danner Jr. and Jay Morrison on Hear That podcast Growling, they said, okay, yeah, it looks like, If he comes out and has one bad punt this week, he's legitimately gone. But then reading Kelsey Conway, who's the Bengals reporter with the Inquirer, she said that she seems to think that Chrisman's going to get he's going to get the go because he's been starting every game or every day. He's been the first punter out there. So
Kelsey Conway, friend of the podcast.
yes, that would be.
She doesn't know that she's a friend of the podcast.
Okay, I mean she seems like a nice, friendly person. I mean, she does sideline reporting for a Bearcats home basketball game. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think if they let Huber go, they're not even going to activate Chrisman to the 53. I think they'll do him as a practice, one of the 2 practice squad elevations for a couple weeks, just so they can do some hurdles with the roster.
Right.
But we'll see. I mean, I no disrespect to Kevin Huber. He's been around for 14 seasons. He's genuinely a nice guy, but he's been poor, and hopefully the Bengals don't need much of don't need a punter anyway this week, but let's see what the kid can do. He can boom them. So
Kevin Huber has been a part of your life longer than one of your children.
Yeah, he really has been. I mean, he was
like your youngest. It's time for him to go.
Not quite. I got a 13-year-old. we still got about 4.5 years. Clock's ticking though, Cam.
That's right. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's make some predictions. How do you see this going?
I got 27-17. I think the Bengals are going to do what's expected. Weather is going to be kind of cold and windy, but I don't think that they're expecting any snow or precipitation or anything that's going to make it all fluky and gross. I think that they're going to take care of business on offense, be efficient. Mixon's going to have a solid game. I'll say 90 yards on 20 carries and a touchdown. Burrow 275, 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. And Steelers score late to make it close, make it seem closer than it actually was.
Okay, I dig it. I was fairly close to that. I went with 31-20 Cincinnati. I like them coming off the bye week. I see a big day from T. Higgins, feeling spry after the bye. And, yeah, I think the Steelers will score late to make it look a little bit closer.
By the way, speaking of weather, did you see what they're expecting this weekend in Buffalo?
No, what are they calling? Just
3 to 6 feet.
Feet?
Feet.
Jesus
starting,
Christ.
I believe, Thursday through Sunday. 3 to 6 feet of snow. That's I'm 6'1". I can't imagine opening my door and walking out to snow like covering all to my receding hairline. That's absolutely batshit crazy.
I wouldn't have to worry about that because I wouldn't open my door. Yeah, no thanks. I'm not ready for the first snow. I used to be romantic about it. Like, give me that first snow. It's Christmas. Let's go. Jingle, jingle, jingle bells. Now this is an inconvenience. My bones hurt.
I've got snow on the ground outside right now. It's not cool.
Is there snow on the ground in Cincinnati right now?
Yeah, it snowed over the weekend. And now we got, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch, half inch. Not much, but there's a little bit of snow on the ground right now. And it's going to get down into the teens. So this is bullshit. Absolute bullshit.
Stupid. At least you're not, wearing spandex and playing a sport outside.
Who says I'm not wearing spandex?
It's true. That's a good point. All right. Let's move on to the main topic of the show. Without a game we'll come back to that later, don't you worry. Without a game to recap, we wanted to try something a little bit different this week. So we're going to look ahead at the second half of the season, offer some thoughts, insights, maybe some predictions, and just generally shoot the shit about the Cincinnati Bengals and the rest of the season, all while using the Richard Linklater Classic Dazed and Confused to help us out. So without further ado, Joe, I'm going to let you kick things off, and here is your first clip.
I only came here to do 2 things, man. Kick some ass and drink some beer. Looks like we're almost out of beer.
Just fantastic scene. This needs to be the Bengals' mentality for the rest of the season. They kind of shit the bed a little bit in the first half of the season against teams that they should have beaten. They should be no worse than 6-3 right now. Ideally, you could look and they could be 7-2. They lost their chance to have any letdown games. This, they've got a tough schedule ahead. They're all winnable, and there's no game that you look and say, the Bengals have absolutely no chance. But It's a tough road. Even New England, who looks to be one of, after the Steelers here, New England looks like one of the more winning or less difficult games, we shall say,
Sure.
because the Bengals struggle with Cleveland. You're up in New England on Christmas Eve. So, but again, Buffalo doesn't look as invincible, and they're coming here. Kansas City's coming here again and took care of them twice last year. These are all games that they can win. They're not should wins, but they're all can win. So they need to go out and just kick ass. And
you touched on something that I was going to a little bit in my next section, but I don't recommend doing any schedule watching. Even some of the games that we were looking at a few weeks ago as like, okay, they're definitely gonna be a favorite. This should be a fairly easy victory, like the Titans game. Now Tennessee's defense is playing out of their minds, and that's going to be super tough. There was some reason to maybe at least wish cast a little bit that Buffalo would have everything wrapped up by week 16 or 17 or 18, whatever it was, and they might rest a few guys. Well, now Buffalo's lost a couple games, and that one very well decide the AFC East for them. Going on the road to Tampa Bay, who has shown some signs of life lately. It's truly going to be week to week. Cincinnati cannot afford to look ahead at a single game the rest of the way.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to my first clip. Here it is.
Mr. Payne, sir, every second that you could let us out early would really increase our chances of survival.
It's like our sergeant told us before one trip into the jungle. Men, 50 of you are leaving on a mission. 25 of you ain't coming.
Got a little early.
I just,
when he says it, the way they jump.
Yeah, I just love the. I don't know how many times they had to do that take to make sure all three kids just jump at the same time, but it's absolutely fantastic. Men.
So good. But yeah, this one's pretty self-explanatory. My big question for the remainder of this season is, what is the actual ceiling of this team with all the injuries that have and continue to pile up? Can they make another Super Bowl run without Chido Awuzie? I mean, their ceiling is certainly lower without him. Dude was one of the top corners in the entire league. Like you said, the Bengals don't have an interception from a corner all season. They traded water with DJ Reader gone. Burrow and T were banged up early. If you want to look at a bright side, a lot of guys that were on the second and third team have now gotten a lot of burn, and that's certainly going to help. They're going to have a lot better depth going forward than you would have predicted earlier in the season. But, with that remaining schedule and Jamar Chase coming back sometime between tomorrow and week 26, there's just no room for error.
Yeah. The one, I don't want to say benefit, but the silver lining of all the injuries, only one has been season ending. Again, knock on. Everyone's had, everyone.
It's a big one though.
Yeah, it's a big one. Again, it's mitigated by who the defensive coordinator is. And the Bengals play more, and part of the reason why they haven't had cornerback is the kind of coverage that they play. Cornerbacks playing under, just playing the scheme that they're playing. Cornerbacks aren't going to get a lot of interceptions on that anyway. But again, I have faith in Lou that he's going to keep scheming around Cheeto's absence. They're thin there, but they still, they still have guys, and they still have strong safety set. The linebackers are healthy. So
in Lou we trust, and he's given us no reason to feel otherwise.
Right.
All right, so let's move on to your next one.
I'll tell you, that's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
I am so sorry, guys.
Whoa.
This was a mistake. You know how Pete Rose is trying to get back into the Hall of Fame. He's trying to get back into the good graces. We let him kind of pitch in as someone, who can just kind of help us show that he's being here for community service. We let him pick out the clips.
He told us he had changed. Pete told us he had changed.
I know.
And then we should let him into the Hall. You should not let him in. Well, that's.
I told him to pick the obvious. Told him to pick the obvious Wooderson clip, and that's what he went with. And folks, I'm sorry, that is not what we intended. That's not what I wanted it to be. He's been fired. He's been let go.
We'll edit that out. Don't you worry. All right, let's go to your actual clip.
So you're a freshman, right?
Yeah.
All right, so tell me, man, how's this year's crop of freshman chicks looking?
Only slightly
This
less
one was
salacious.
not Pete Rose. We're getting somewhere with this time.
It's still salacious, but no, this is kind of just a rookie prognostication for what I think they're going to end up doing for the rest of the season. With Dax Hill, it kind of depends on how when he comes back onto the field from his injuries. I still think he's going to be a bit player and a special teamer because the cornerback room, while not great, is healing up. Cam Taylor-Britt, Hilton, and Apple are going to be your starters from here on out. Flowers is going to be coming back from his hamstring injury. So I think they might mix him in a little bit more, but he's still going to be kind of towards the back of the room in the safety room, and he's just going to get special teams snaps. Moves to the next one, Cam Taylor-Britt. He's a starter. He's likely going to be taking some more lumps along the way, but I'm going to say that he's playing his best ball by the time the calendar flips over to 2023 and into the playoffs. Yes, they're making the playoffs. Zach Carter, he's getting more snaps, but he's more of a long-term project at 3 technique. He will get a sack at some point this season, but he's still going to struggle. He gets washed out in run plays, and he's still adjusting to playing on the inside. So, 4th round, Cordell Volson, he's going to continue to ascend to be a solid player. He's a decent left tackle or left guard right now. By season's end, he's going to be just a solid, reliable, especially on the ground, road grader. So, someone whose growth, is happy to see, considering the Bengals have been terrible at drafting linemen in each and every round. But I think they've actually found a keeper in the 4th round with Volson. Tyson Anderson, he is still on injured reserve. He's going to be a special teamer if he ever gets activated, if he even sees the field. He's missed so much time. Maybe the end of the season, they might if he's activated off IR, they might bring him up just to play some special team snaps, but he's kind of way behind there. Jeff Gunner, the 7th rounder, he's going to be more special teams and occasional pass rush opportunities, especially if there's an injury or someone needs a blow. He's just buried on the depth chart. But, again, he's a key piece on special teams. He already had that blocked field goal. So,
yeah, I think love getting any sort of noticeable production out of a 7th rounder.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is, we had a couple weeks ago where we touched on, the absolute disappearance of the Bengals rookie class, but this is that they're all progressing outside of injuries, but they're coming along slowly but surely. So and I think there's definitely some keepers out of this year's draft. So
for sure, and the injuries have forced the Bengals coaching staff's hand a little bit. But if we look, towards the end of this season, and Dax Hill's getting a lot more playing time, Cam Taylor-Britt keeps turning the right direction, and then Cordell Volson keeps playing well. You're going to look back at that 2021 draft and be extremely pleased. 22 draft, sorry, and be extremely pleased.
Yeah, if you get 3 starters and then a couple role players, I mean that's a hell of a draft. I mean, are there any superstars? Probably not, but you're not going to get, nor do you need a superstar. You don't need Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow every draft.
Yeah, they got a few of those. It's harder to get them when you draft late.
And I'm okay with the
Bengals did it.
Keep drafting late. Keep drafting in the 30s.
Please. All right, moving on.
Coach, I gotta get going. Me and my loser friends, we gotta go get Aerosmith tickets. Top priority of the summer. Oh, Coach, I forgot. I might play ball, but I will never sign that.
This one was a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to call it Jesse Bates Watch, who did sign the piece of paper last year. As we all know, he is set to become a free agent after this season, which he is playing on the franchise tag. They're unlikely to tag him twice. I don't even know what the rules are around that.
Huge payday.
Yeah, huge payday. So is he going to use these next 7 weeks to show out? I've seen him listed as high as the 6th best player entering free agency in the offseason. His 71.1 PFF grade through week 10. It's only the 27th best at his position. But he's top 10 in run defense with an 80.9 mark. That is just elite. He's also on track to play his 5th 900-plus snap season in 5 years as an NFL player. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on not only how he plays, but what they start doing around him when some of these younger fellows that need to fill his role when he's gone, particularly if they lose a few and it looks like they might miss out on the playoffs, these guys are going to need to be ready for next season, and I think they'll need to start preparing for life without Jesse soon. And yeah,
it's funny. I thought about Jesse Bates for to do a different clip. When they're on the scene right before that, when they're on the football field and they're talking about, I just want to say I did the best I could while I was stuck in this place. That makes it sound too cynical about how Cincinnati is. So I'm not going to use that, but he was definitely on my mind for some of these.
We saved the cynicism for the Reds podcast.
There's a lot of cynicism to go around.
Yeah, plenty of it. All right, your next one was one I wanted to incorporate in some capacity, but could not figure out how to do it. And then after seeing what you chose for this one, I got to go down a rabbit hole doing some reading. I never knew about this young lady, but here we go.
But you know what? Behind every good man, there's a woman. And that woman was Martha Washington, man. And every day George would come home, she'd have a big fat bowl waiting for him, man, when he'd come in the door, man. She was a hip lady, man.
Such
I
a
love me
good
some Slater.
scene.
This is in
nothing
general
nothing better than when my better half calls me and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching Dazed and Confused for work." Sorry, go ahead.
We get paid for this?
Well, we work for it. We don't get paid.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's work. Don't get paid for it. No, this specifically to Elizabeth Blackburn, but kind of generally to the Blackburn women. Her sister Caroline Blackburn and her mom Katie Blackburn. Elizabeth Blackburn is a rising star in the just along with the franchise herself. I mean, it's her great grandpa's, Paul Brown's team, but also league wide. She's involved. She was involved with the all the engagement with the new uniforms last year, the Ring of Honor, which was a huge hit, about 20 years overdue for that. She's in to credit for the more active social engagements on all the social media platforms. Now she's on league-wide committees. Her mom is one of the most respected, probably the most respected woman in all of pro football. She's been that way for years. I mean, she's been the lead negotiator for the team on
What
contracts.
about Mike McCarthy?
What is he? You're thinking Melissa McCarthy.
Oh yeah.
Wrong one. Yeah, it's the entire Blackburn woman, but especially Elizabeth is the whole, at least forward-facing Bengals team. Obviously, they don't have as much to do on the field, but the team, just with the engagement with the city and winning over. I mean, this was the relationship the team had with the city after 2019 was about as low as it's been probably in my lifetime. And that's saying something, because we went the entire decade, the crappy 90s where they, couldn't get out of their own way, and then slogging through the Marvin years. And now there is something, and I can't remember the metric. It might just be social media engagements. Out of all of the all of the four main pro sports, the Bengals are the 10th most popular, alongside the Lakers. The Lakers and Warriors are 1 and 2. Yankees are in there, and the Bengals are 10th out of all professional leagues in the United States. That's fucking crazy. Little old Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. Mike Brown's Bengals of all teams, the Bungles that couldn't get out of their own way, are the 10th most popular team in pro sports right now in America, and that's a lot of it has to do with her. I mean, yeah, you can say what's on the field, but they've been good before. It has to do with just having a star with the magnetic personality of Joe Burrow doesn't hurt, but you need somebody to promote that. You need, forward facing for the franchise. So
yeah, I love it. Yeah, if you guys are just got a few minutes to kill, just go Google Elizabeth Blackburn, and you will not be upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're all just incredibly well accomplished women. Yeah, they're part, it's nepotism, and that, it's kind of bullshit that they just hire within the family, but these are women that have actually earned their spot at the table.
Well, listen, so sometimes nepotism works. I mean, look at Ivanka Trump and Hunter Biden. Oh yeah, the fact that I'm hosting a podcast right now. But yeah, that's awesome. Great choice for just something to touch on, and fantastic clip to explain it. But let's go ahead and bring this thing home.
God, don't you ever feel like everything we do and everything we've been taught is just to service the future?
Yeah, I know. It's like it's all preparation.
Right, but what are we preparing ourselves for?
Death. Life of the party. It's true.
You know, but that's valid. Because if we're all gonna die anyway, shouldn't we be enjoying ourselves now? You know, I'd like to quit thinking of the present, like right now, as some minor, insignificant preamble to something else.
Exactly.
That's right. We do not need to think of the present as some minor, insignificant preamble. I chose that clip because I want to make sure we end things on a happy note here. The fact of the matter is, and you just touched on a little bit of it, Cincinnati is playing meaningful football in Week 11. This franchise has only made the playoffs once over the last 6 years, only 10 times out of the last 30. And other than last year, they haven't advanced past the wild card round since 1990. So all I ask, Joe, is that we do not take this for granted. Is this team destined for the Super Bowl? I don't know. But it's not impossible. And we should enjoy the hell out of every second of it.
Agreed.
That's all I got, man.
I was gonna say agreed. They were 5-4 last year coming out of the bye, and they're 5-4 this year coming out of the bye. So means they're going to the Super Bowl and they're going to lose to the Rams in Los Angeles again. Oh wait a minute, they're not playing the Rams. They will not be playing the Rams. I can tell you that with 100%
of that
certainty.
entire prediction, I think that them playing the Rams would be the least likely, even though the Super Bowl is definitely not in LA. All right, so that is going to do it for anything I have to add to this conversation. Do you have any parting thoughts, my man?
I just for those, I know you and your brother are both went to UVA, and anyone affected by the senseless, we'll just call it what it is, just the horse shit, the shooting, the violence, and everything. Thoughts out. I've got my larger thoughts that I'm gonna leave that to other things, but just anyone affected and everyone, just stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Then tough times here in Virginia. So sending all of our the love, thoughts, prayers, and warm wishes to the families and everyone affected by that horrific tragedy in Charlottesville. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Riverfront Bengals Show. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to see us do or cover, if you want to see the tights that Joe is wearing right now, shoot us an email at riverfrontcincy.com, or follow us on Twitter at TRBangleShow. I am NC.32. Shoot us a message. Sometimes we pretend to like people, and we might even respond.
Maybe.
So for Joe Farsing, for Elizabeth Blackburn, I am Nate Dotson, and we'll see you next time.